Welcome back to another episode of the Optimistic Met Fan Podcast. I am your host, Frank Osberger, and welcome to tonight's show. And before we start, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's already subscribed and who has followed me along on TikTok and Instagram. I greatly appreciate all of the love that you guys have shown me. Thank you so much. As far as today's show goes, let's get started. Pete Alonso, chasing the home run record, already has 9 home runs as of May 8th. And also, I feel like he might break his own record of the single season RBI record. So we'll get into that. We'll also get into a little bit about Francisco Lindor. Is he Hall of Fame bound? Is he going to be in Cooperstown as the Mets shortstop? I think so. We're going to break that down as well. Also, we're going to talk about Blake Tidwell making his debut for the New York Mets. A couple of bright spots, but we're also going to talk about the negative as well with the young starter. We're also going to dive a little bit into the minor leagues and talk a little bit about the injuries that have plagued the Mets in the last week. But, before that, the Mets did have 2 series. They did lose the doubleheader they had Sunday against St. Louis after winning Friday night. So they did have a losing series there. They did bounce back against the Arizona Diamondbacks in Arizona, which was pretty impressive. Juan Soto showing off some home run power in the last start, in his last game, rather. 2 home runs and 3 RBIs, so that was pretty impressive. So we'll get, going to get into that and also into the other topics as well. So first off, let's talk about Francisco Lindor. And is he really Hall of Fame bound? Let's look at some of the evidence that I looked up. I was looking up WAR leaders for shortstops that are in the Hall of Fame. And then I was looking up some of Francisco Lindor stats. And, pretty interesting. We'll go through some of the WAR leaders. That's wins above replacement. For those of you who don't know, wins above replacement basically takes all your offensive stats, some of your defensive stats, base running, all of that stuff, and kind of calculates it. It says, okay, how many, how good are you compared to other players? So, Honus Wagner was number 1 at 131 WAR, and he made the Hall of Fame. Then you go to number 2, was A-Rod at 117.4 WAR, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, everybody knows why, because of the whole steroid stuff. But needless to say, he was one of the best shortstops in baseball. Cal Ripken Jr. was number 3 at 95.9 WAR. He was a Hall of Famer. I also looked up some home runs for some of these guys. Cal Ripken had 431. Then we go to Robin Yount. He was the 6th player in the all-time WAR and ranking for shortstops all time with 77.4, and he had 251 home runs. Ernie Banks was number 8 at 67.7 WAR. He also made the Hall of Fame and had 512 home runs. Then you got guys like Ozzie Smith. He wasn't really a home run hitter, had 28 home runs, but he had a 76.9 WAR. Barry Larkin had 70.5, and he had 198 home runs. And then everybody's favorite shortstop in New York, not mine, even though I did respect him. He was on the other team. Derek Jeter had a 71.3 WAR, and he had 260 home runs. Now, Francisco Lindor, after you dive down a little bit, is at 20 all-time in WAR. And he's not even done yet. And he's at 50.8. And he's still playing. Has a bunch of years left in him. Not only that, he has 255 home runs dating back to today. So currently he has 255, and he's at 20 all-time in WAR. So, just something to debate on. I think he's a Hall of Famer, uh, Gold Glove winner. He's a four-time All Star. Should have a little bit more Gold Gloves and All Star appearances, but we all know what happened last year. I say that kiddingly because he should have made the All Star team last year. He should have won a Gold Glove, uh, but he did not. But listen, with that aside, I still think that Francisco Lindor is on the Hall of Fame path. And even if, let's just say, could he get to 400 home runs? That was a little bit of a debate that I had with my Mets friends. Even if you say, okay, he hits 20 more home runs this year, that puts him at 275. At the end of his Met contract, in the next, I think he has 6 years left on it, if I'm not mistaken. If he hits 25 home runs every single year, after that, let's say he finishes this year with 275, that puts him at 425 home runs. That's Hall of Fame. So, with that said, I think that Francisco Lindor is a Hall of Famer in the making, and it's great that he's on our team. We get another Hall of Famer wearing the orange and blue. So, with that said, let's talk about another guy who I think is coming into his own as a Hall of Famer. Maybe not a Hall of Famer, but at least a Mets Hall of Famer, and that's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, right now, has 34 RBIs, and it's May 8th. So when I asked the question at the beginning of the show, do I think, or do you guys think, he is on pace to break the single season RBI record at 131, which oddly enough is his own record. He already had broken the single season RBI record for the New York Mets. That was recently at 124, and that was with David Wright and Mike Piazza both sharing that record at 124. He beat that in 2022 with that great year he had a couple of years ago and had 131. Now he's at 34 RBIs, so he's already 8 ahead of where he was a couple of years ago at the same time. So, right now it's looking pretty good. Like he might break the all-time home run record, which is obviously the record that he's chasing right now with Darryl Strawberry. So Pete Alonso has 18 home runs to go to be the all-time home run leader of the New York Mets. And now you're talking about him maybe breaking another single-season record, one that is his own with the RBIs. He currently sits at 620 RBIs all time, Pete Alonso. So, if the Mets re-sign him at the end of this season, or even extend him during this season, another question is he going to break David Wright's all-time RBI record? And I think the answer is yes, especially with this lineup. When you look at his lineup that he has in front of him with Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, and then all these guys they have at the bottom of the lineup, turn the lineup back over again. Pete Alonso is going to just tear it up and get so many RBI chances that I don't see how he can't be the all-time RBI leader if the Mets decide to re-sign him to a contract. Now, I think they should. I know there's been some debate. Does it even make sense to extend him? Should they just let it ride out for the season? I think both sides are probably going to let it ride out to the end of the season. I don't see the Mets extending him. It would be nice for the Mets to extend him, but I just don't see that happening. So, we'll see. I think they should, but I don't really see it happening. So, as far as those two guys, I think you have two guys that, we're going to make history in New York Met uniforms. And I think that's really great. It's been a while. since the Mets had guys that you can say could make some noise. It's nice that the Mets are going to be able to do that. And then when you look at Soto, we already have a guy now for the next 50 seasons that's going to be able to just add to the prestigious team, at least what we're trying to do, and that's have continuous success. So it's really nice to see that the Mets are finally turning that over, and we'll see if they keep it going. I mean, we got a lot of young guys coming up through the farm system. I'm going to touch base on a couple of those guys that I think are hopefully on their way up soon. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely really fun to be a Met fan right now and talk about all this great stuff. Speaking of one prospect that got his debut, Blake Tidwell had his debut in the doubleheader this past weekend against St. Louis. He went 3 2/3. Couldn't get out of the fourth inning, unfortunately. I thought he was very nervous and just not ready. And when I say not ready, I mean I don't think his stuff is quite there yet. He has a really nice fastball, has a really good slider, but his other secondary and third level pitches are not quite there yet. And it's just unfortunate because when you look at his team and you say, hey, you got this young pitching prospect coming up, you expect a couple of more type of secondary pitches to be good. But he's just, he's still raw. And I think, the book on him might be that he might be at least a middle relief guy because he does have a really good fastball and a really good slider, like I said. So with that being said, if he doesn't make the rotation, that's fine. He can be another Jose Uto or another Max Crank who will go out there and give you 2 innings, and then you see what happens, right? And then, you always need these depth guys. So, I think in the long run, I think Blake Tidwell might be okay. But, you know, I thought what we saw was a guy that just didn't have good, major league ready stuff. I thought he had good stuff. I just didn't think he was ready. So speaking of other guys that might be ready, uh, well, no, before we get into that, I did want to give you an update on some of the injuries at the New York Mets. So Jesse Winker recently got injured. He's the DH slash outfielder for the New York Mets. He unfortunately is going to be out for the next couple of months. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks, so probably 2 months. Hopefully he's back by then. Hopefully this doesn't linger. Oblique injuries tend to linger. So Jesse Winker is now on the IL. He's not out for the season, so that's good. But replacing him on the roster is good old friend Rebe. And I say that jokingly because, he is a good old friend. He's now getting his fourth chance to be on the team. And I'm praying that this is the last time that we ever say that Rebe is being put on this team and that he's not getting sent down again. I think he might be sent down again, but we'll see. I think he gives the Mets a little bit more depth than Winker would. He'll let bats, but again, I don't think that matters. I do think his versatility defensively does matter, and what he's going to give the Mets now is at least a backup to Marquinhos third, and then he could also play some second, and he can DH. So hopefully, Rebe could turn the corner in his career as he's getting his now fourth chance to make the team. So, we have that update. And then the Mets brought up a couple of relievers to replace AJ Minter and Danny Young, who all are going to be out for the season. AJ Mender, I believe it's a last strain, so he's going to opt for surgery. And then Danny Young, obviously, is going to have Tommy John, so they're both going to be out for the year, getting season-ending surgery. And replacing them on the roster right now, as we always say, the Mets have incredible depth. Seems like they don't miss it when a guy gets injured. So with that being said, you have a couple of guys that come back to the Mets. Daniel Nunez is now back on the team, finally from AAA, and we also have Genesis Guerrero, left. Had a pretty good year with the Cardinals last season, so we'll see what Genesis Guerrero can do. We definitely need some lefty relief because, obviously we lost two of our lefty relievers just surgeries. With that said, we'll see what this minor league depth could provide for them in the short term, and we'll see. Maybe some other guys come up in the farm system. Maybe we'll see what tricks that David Stearns has up his sleeve. He always seems to figure it out. And honestly, with this team, no matter who they bring up, I feel like they have a good chance. So, I never really feel like the Mets are at it with David Stearns. I always feel like, every other day we're hearing about a new Met coming up. And that's pretty awesome. So, hopefully Daniel Nunez, this Daniel Nunez from last season, boy, he got injured. And hopefully Genesis Guerrero will give us some depth as another signing. Good was Colin Poach. He was a lefty that was on Tampa Bay, and also most recently not the Cardinals, the Washington Nationals. So we'll see, another minor league signing by David Stearns, and hopefully, with that said, the depth of this team won't go anywhere. Poche actually was a pretty good reliever for Tampa Bay not too long ago. So hopefully, with that being said, the Mets have some really good options with bullpen. And now, speaking of that, you have some minor leaguers that before we end tonight's show, I definitely want to bring up. So in April, start with April, AAA. So in April, the Mets' first pick from last season, Carson Bench, the last 10 games. I actually studied the last 10 games of all these guys. So he's in Brooklyn playing for the Cyclones. And he has average that's at 366, and he has 2 doubles, triple, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 11 runs scored, and also you could add 2 stolen bases. So the last 10 games, Carson Bench is really making a name for himself down there in Brooklyn. Anybody who lives in Brooklyn, you should go down there and see him before he gets called up to AA. I plan on seeing him before he gets called up. I just love seeing some of these young guys in the minor leagues before they become professionals. So Brooklyn's done a good job of providing that for Brooklyn fans. Down in Double A, we have 2 guys I want to talk about. First, Jet Williams, who was the first pick that the Mets had a couple of years ago, has an average of 303 in the last 10 games. Has 3 doubles, 3 stolen bases, 2 runs scored. Now, the Mets are still waiting for him to stay healthy. That's been Jet Williams' problem throughout his minor league career. He has a lot of talent, but again, he's one of these guys that he needs to stay healthy. So it's good to see he's finally staying healthy and making a pretty good name for himself down there in AA. He's one of those guys that could be the future center fielder for the Mets. So we'll see. Also down in AA, the gentleman Ryan Clifford, who's really the best power bat in the minor leagues. I would say he's the next Pete Alonso type bat that's going to come from the minor leagues. Uh, Not a great average so far. His average has dipped to the Mendoza line, down to 200. Does have 2 home runs in the last 10 games and 6 RBIs, and also 3 runs scored. His average has dipped mainly because he struck out over times. So, again, again uh, guys that power hitters, you know, definitely don't strike out a lot. But, hopefully Ryan Clifford could figure that out. Power number 7 there. So down in AAA, you have another outfield prospect by the name of Drew Gilbert. And Drew Gilbert with 3 doubles, 3 home runs, and 10 RBIs. So it's nice to see him finally putting this together. Um, you know, he was another guy that the Mets were kind of concerned with the injuries. Had a lot of hamstring injuries the last year and a half. So it's good to see him staying healthy. And really, that's what this whole farm system has been dealing with. It's been dealing with staying healthy. Because when you see these guys play, these guys, these guys can ball. These guys are really good. So, you know, Drew Gilbert is another outfielder that I think the Mets are looking to have as a corner outfielder or a center fielder. So, there's definitely going to be a competition for center field down the line for the New York Mets in the near future. So that's pretty good. And lastly, I wanted to touch base on one pitcher, and it's not going to be Brandon Stroh. Brandon Sproat is kind of, you know, still kind of figuring it out. Triple. But this one guy I wanted to mention, uh, Nolan McLean, in 5 starts in AAA so far this year, he has 3 wins and 1 loss. He has an ERA of 1.37 in 26 innings pitched, has 30 strikeouts and 12 walks, and an opponent average of 213. That's pretty darn good. So, really surprised with how fast Nolan McLean has adapted to AAA. And that's actually really, really good to the New York Mets. Now, like I always say when we talk about prospects, and I mentioned it in a previous episode, I'll mention it again. Just because I'm hyping these guys up doesn't mean they're going to be on the New York Mets. These could be guys that David Stearns, if they all play well, will kind of have a pick of litter, and he'll be able to pick and choose who he thinks is going to be the future of his team. Some of these guys may be traded, come July 31st. But, again, that's a good problem to have, I think. Whole, farm system to pluck from and see, how they all develop. And if everybody develops the right way, then you got one hell of a problem come July 31st, because this team right now is pretty stacked with talent. And guys I just mentioned, even if you take 2 of those guys and put them on this roster right now, they're that much better. They already brought up guys like Luis Acuna, who's one of the best young players in the league right now. So, again, you also have guys like Francisco Alvarez in the catch position who's still progressing. Guys like Murphy Endos, even though he struggled a little bit this year to start off, is still a really good player. And, these are all guys from the Mets farm system. So again, you know, this is a great thing. So again, like I said, if 2 or 3 of these guys make it on this roster this year and help the team in some way, that'll make 2025 the Mets that much better. And our goal is to, you know, finish what we started last year, right? We were 2 games away from the World Series. Let's try to get to that next step. The only way we can get to that next step is if we grow our own talent, and I think the Mets are doing a great job of that. So that's where I'm going to leave this show. Like always, if you like what you hear and like what we watch today, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on YouTube as well as Spotify, and you could also catch my clips on TikTok and Instagram. But until then, have a great week, everybody, and let's go Mets. I'll see you next week.